What is up, everybody? It's the fifth episode of the B+Ball Boys podcast. We got Memphis Marco, Eric holding it down up in LA, but he's not a Clippers or Lakers guy, but we love him for that. We got me being a proxy LA guy. It sucks this year. But the trade deadline happened this weekend. Very exciting things. In addition to some record breaking. So we'll get it started as always with players pushing P. Shout out Gunna, Young Thug, and Future. Pushing P, as the B+Ball Boys see it, is just being on the up and up, doing some positive things, doing some things we like to see. There we go. Eric's got the P. Eric has the P. So actually, can I go last on the players pushing P? I want to see what you guys bring up.
Saving the best for last. I'm with it. Sure. I can go first. Mine's pretty not a crazy big name, but wanted to give some love to Keldon Johnson on the Spurs. They played the Hawks on Friday. Spurs won 136-121. Keldon Johnson was 8 for 13 from the floor, 6 for 8 from 3. No turnovers and a plus 18. Young gun out there with a Spurs team that, one might say that they're rebuilding, but they got some nice young pieces. They got an all-star in DeJounte Murray. So shout out to Keldon Johnson for doing his thing out there.
Absolutely.
He's going to get more of a offensive opportunity now that they traded Derek White, which we'll talk about. The one that I want to pick is my boy Nikola Jokic.
Yes, sir.
Now, you could pick any week of his career and you can find a ton of big games, but last night in a game in Toronto, he had a game-saving block on OG Anunoby, which is his 350th career block. And I was just thinking, for a guy who's not the most athletic player in the NBA, to put it lightly, and used to be called a bad defender. He's not a bad defender anymore. It's kind of funny that he has 4 game-saving blocks in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Out of his 350 career blocks, 4 of them are game-saving blocks in the last year. One against Zion last season, and this season he's had one against the Rockets, the Warriors, and the Raptors. So I just want to give him a shout out for coming in clutch with clutch blocks in the last few seconds of games a lot of times this year. And last night, taking down a Raptors team that was on an 8-game win streak.
That's very impressive. I did not know that more than 1% of his blocks are game saving.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, since it wasn't brought up, even though it wasn't a losing effort, LeBron passed Kareem all-time playoff plus regular season points. He needed, I think, 19 last night against the Warriors. He got 26. Kareem's at 44,149. LeBron now sits at 44,157. So, yeah, LeBron, didn't have a great shooting night, honestly. He was clearly gunning for, a performance. But he ended with 26, 15, and 8, 9 for 27. Plus minus of negative 11. But, I think
he kind of sold.
Yeah,
he kind of sold the game. I'm not going to lie. Look, but honestly, if you're a Lakers fan,
yeah,
they played a good game. They didn't win. They played a good game, though.
Play the Warriors tight. There's worse teams to play tight. So
it's better than the last couple of games y'all played. So
true.
Maybe a little something to build off there.
That's true.
Shout out LeBron, man. It's a big milestone.
LeBron, career accomplishment. This
I'm
year.
I'm sure when he actually passes Kareem for regular season scoring, it's going to be a really big deal. You know what I mean? But it's just that although it is he has the most points in the NBA of any player ever. Right. I'm sure when most people call the record for points is the regular season record for points, which is something like 39,000. When he passes that, it's going to be celebrated for weeks.
He still is behind. Is he still behind Karl Malone?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because he's Karl Malone's second.
I
Let's
think
see.
he's definitely third though. He's on pace to do it. That's all I know.
Okay, cool.
You guys want to move on to trade deadline?
And the
We got
trade.
some big things to talk about in the NBA.
Just real quick, is
Yep.
Shams the new news breaking king over Woj?
No.
No,
saw
I
that
have
floating
a
around
strong
Twitter.
opinion on this.
I saw it. You guys saw that floating around on Twitter, right?
I didn't see that. But wait, Marco, sound off with the take, bro.
Okay, like Shams is in with like players, agents, and stuff, right? Where Woj is clearly, and I'm inferring this, like they haven't actually said anything about this, right? It seems like Shams is in with like players, agents, and Woj is in with like front office guys, right? So Shams often will tweet like he's so clearly trying to be first, and I know they're both trying to be first, right? But Shams will tweet out like one little piece of the deal to be first,
Right.
rather than, and then Woj will tweet out like
The whole
a
deal.
lot more details.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then eventually like the full trade, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't think that Shams like first. I don't think that it's as good because like you don't know what's happening. Like for example, I think he tweeted something like Serge Ibaka is being traded to the Bucks or something like that.
There's so
and
much.
then Woj follows up with like there's like a 4-team deal between like the Bucks, Clippers, Kings, and Pistons. And you're like where like or like he'll just tweet out like Marvin Bagley's being traded to the Pistons. You're like, for what? Like you don't like even know how to have a reaction until you know for what, because like most players are on the table just depending on like for what. So I don't really like Shams is like partial news breaking deal. I also don't love like he often like doesn't credit like where he got his news from, where Woj will like he'll just like retweet someone else who like posted it.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
But
I guess like the main trade that we have to talk about is obviously
Harden Simmons.
James Harden being traded for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, so
along with some pretty useful role players going to the Nets as well, and 2 picks.
Yeah, so in totality, it's Harden and Millsap going to the Sixers, and then the Nets get Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and then 2 first-round picks in 2027 and 2022. So y'all see those memes about Doc saying bye to his grandchildren.
Yeah.
Great times.
I think that like, well, I guess we should just like give our reactions now. But first of all, like Daryl Morey was right.
Yeah.
So
great day for like, the analytics king.
Yeah, not like trade for like Harrison Barnes or whatever. Like we may have said he should have in the past. Clearly he's vindicated and no one can really tell him otherwise. These teams might meet in the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah.
My very first question is, if they met in the playoffs, like who do you think would win?
Okay, well, yeah, given that okay, so a couple things. All right, Nets.
Maybe this is too tough because we haven't seen these guys really play
but
in a second.
My reaction is they'll probably be a 5 seed or lower with this skid and Katie's still being out, so they'll have Kyrie for 4 games. But I'm not sure like how quickly Ben Simmons is going to play himself back into like basketball shape. But I do think like the fit wise, like they should be like 90% of like as good as the best they were this year, I think. But I mean the Sixers just are like, I feel like that. I mean people we're saying it could be like Shaq and Kobe. I think that's like, let's hold the presses on that one. But I think that I kind of like the Sixers' chances here in this series, all things considered, honestly.
I think I'm gonna break this down into smaller questions.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, please.
Can we all agree that the fit, or do we agree, yes or no, the fit with Simmons on the Nets is better than the fit with Harden on the Nets?
Yeah, so I think so.
Eric, how do you feel? I want to make sure you're getting your.
I want to know who the leader on the Nets is. I've heard people bring that argument up, and I think it's a really valid point. I think like basketball wise, like just positional and player type, sure, but
you don't think it's KD?
Is KD is he a locker room leader? Like, is he leading the charge of the team? I don't know. I mean, it's easy to point at him as the leader when you see him drop like 40 and it's like, oh, that guy's the leader. But like, have we ever thought of KD as like a guy to rally the troops? And I don't think so. I think you got a lot. I think the personalities, when I think of these teams going up in a playoff series, I'm thinking of the personalities and like the dogs that want to, win. And I don't see that in Ben Simmons. And I saw funny memes, like the funny meme that said the Nets now have two guys who won't take shots for the team when they need them.
I saw that too.
But let me ask you, basketball wise, do you think it's a better
basketball wise? Do I think it's a better fit? Yeah, but like, that doesn't mean I think that they're gonna like win a series. I also trust Doc Rivers more in a playoff series than Steve Nash.
I don't trust Doc Rivers at all.
I trust him more.
I mean, Steve Nash is 1-1, and then I'm sure Doc has a better overall record.
I think
Doc Rivers has the most blown 3-1 leads in NBA history.
I think KD masked. Well, if you look at the so Kyrie went down and they played the Bucks, and I think they were up. Were they up 2-0 in that series?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were up 2-0. Kyrie went down, and I think KD masked.
Harden went down too. He didn't really play a ton.
Who?
Harden in that series.
Yeah. Well, if anything, I don't know who do you point the finger? Oh, look at this 10-game losing streak. Do you point the finger at Kyrie? I don't think so. This is kind of.
I think you can.
I mean, it's just like you can, but it's also like he's in and out. But
okay, so you're not sure whether it's a better fit or not.
I think time will have to tell. I think the point about. I mean, right now they're in the play-in tournament, right?
Yeah, I think to the.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think that they wouldn't be able to make it out, but
KD hasn't played in a month. He'll be back.
Yeah, they dropped 11. Haven't they dropped 11 straight?
Yeah, although they played Miami pretty tight last night, with only Kyrie.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a follow-up. Okay, so I believe that is a better basketball fit. So we got 2 yeses and 1 maybe. In Brooklyn, it's a better basketball fit. I think it goes without saying that like the Sixers adding a max player for a max player who wasn't playing is a positive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like whether James Harden is the James Harden of old or whether he played amazing basketball last year. He was an MVP candidate last year, right? So I'm not gonna like go say like James Harden is washed, whatever. I think that it's more likely that he was disengaged, which brings up my next question. Who was responsible for the death of the Nets locker room? Just
oh my God.
Answer that question. And I don't really love like trying to read into like a guy's personality or anything like that, but I do think that there's an answer to this. So let me put that question to you guys.
Who was responsible? Patty Mills. No.
Yeah, obviously.
I would say Kyrie. I'm going to say Kyrie. I would say Kyrie.
I kind of think that too.
I do agree with you guys. I saw like that meme. You know that meme where like Eric Andre like shoots Hannibal Burris and was like,
Oh yeah. Like,
why
why did
would
they do that?
someone else? Yeah, why did they do that? And it was like Kyrie Irving shoots the Nets locker room, and then it's like, why did James Harden do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would be pretty upset if like I left a team and a situation to go to a different one, and then like it wasn't what I expected at all, right? Like, let's say all of us have jobs, right? Like we leave a job, go to a different job, and then it's like absolutely not what was promised, and we have way more responsibility than we're supposed to, and like a coworker that you might really not get along with, right? And I think that Kyrie acting like he doesn't have like agency in this whole thing probably is like the tipping point. You know what I mean? Where he acts like it's out of his control, and of course it is not out of his control. That he could play for his team, and instead Harden is in a spot that he objectively did not want to be when he left Houston. Like I think we can say when he left Houston, he was effectively saying like, I'm not the number one anymore, right? Or I don't want to be the number one anymore.
Yeah.
And with KD out and Kyrie not playing half the time, like you're putting him back in the situation he didn't want to be in. So I do think the answer is Kyrie Irving. Now I guess so. I've asked a couple smaller questions. The Sixers are going to be better. I don't really like think there's any disagreement there.
Yeah, I think so.
James Harden, as I said, I don't think that he's washed or anything.
I wouldn't say he's washed, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care about the two first round picks either, because you think about this upcoming first round pick, what is that going to be? Like a 20, the highest will be like a 20th pick, maybe. I mean, it's going to be a very low first round pick. 2027, like who cares? They could probably like, who knows what could happen from that? Maybe they could get another first round pick back.
Yeah, that kid's in high school right now. Middle school.
Yeah. Seth Curry, I mean, he was a good player for the Sixers. It's not an insignificant loss.
Yeah.
Andre Drummond, I mean, he also played really well for the Sixers. That's not an insignificant loss either. But I mean, they added James Harden for effectively those two.
Right. That's what,
right.
It's like Ben Simmons. How can you really count that? We haven't seen him play in.
If we're talking about only what's on court, like it's pretty clear that they're going to be better. I've seen a lot of talk about like Embiid, Harden pick and rolls, and I think that it is true that James Harden is a great pick and roll distributor. Although I will say it is Joel Embiid whose game is not really as the roll man. Like he can roll, but like you have one of the most talented big men of all time, and to reduce him to like just a roller would be a little strange. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna run it sometimes, and it's gonna make things probably easier for some of the other Sixers players, where there's so much offense, so much defensive attention paid to this Embiid Harden pick and roll theoretically that like someone like Tobias Harris would have open shots on the weak side or like a drive on a closeout. But it's not really Embiid's game to roll. So I mean, in that situation where they run that, like I think that they would have good results. But I'm wondering what Harden does. Who's Harden, when his other star has had the ball, has always just kind of stood around. And I'm wondering what he does when Joel Embiid has the ball. Because Joel Embiid is going to post up. He's going to, like, ISO at like the elbow. He's gonna do the things that make Joel Embiid great, and it's his team. So what is Harden going to do when Embiid has the ball? And that's going to kind of make the difference between them being like a contender and them being like really, really good to me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not like a dead eye shooter, so it's not like he just like is doing the most by sitting behind the arc. I don't know what I do probably see him. Well, he seems to have this like 3-month window of like trying really hard on a new team. So I think he'll be on his best behavior. But eventually he might just like, start stagnating. And once he doesn't have the ball, like, what do you think, Eric?
Well, I don't think if he doesn't, so far this season, this is his worst 3-point shooting season on record. He's shooting 33% from 3. So, which is not like, obviously not great. It's also not the worst, but still, it's not good. You're not good enough. It's not okay for you to just be sitting behind the arc waiting to shoot a 3 when you're shooting that low.
Well, let me ask you, like, his 3-point percentage has always been lower because what he shoots is like the step backs, the side steps, the off the dribble threes, right? I don't think anybody would see James Harden open for 3 and say just like let him have it because his 3-point percentage is low, right? Like that 3-point percentage is low because he's taking like the hardest threes known to man, right? And when he was in his prime and shooting like 37% from 3, and it was all like step backs, like that was crazy. That was insanity. You know what I mean? So the fact that he's shooting 32% on like what's a very hard shot makes sense. But like, let's say Embiid kicks it out to an open Harden, which is already like a mistake by the defense. Like, I don't think anybody is going to be like, Harden's missing that. I honestly think that you would be like, that's a make. Like you would be like, we gave up 2 points.
Like, darn, we messed up our rotation there. Yeah, okay.
I get that. The one thing that he's doing really well, and I think not only Embiid will benefit from, but Tyrese Maxey. I mean, he's getting assists. He's getting the ball to people. Tyrese Maxey's getting 40% from 3. So
amazing facilitator.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see Maxey level up as if, I mean, he's been leveling up. He's been pushing P, if you will.
He has been.
And
pushing P.
I think Harden will benefit from that, especially since we've been talking about him not wanting to be the star. And that facilitating will benefit him, Danny Green. I know Thibault's not much of a 3-point shooter, but
Tobias Harris, they still have
Tobias
Harris.
So,
I think Tobias Harris will be one of the biggest beneficiaries of being moved down a step on the like offensive totem pole, because he's not a number 2. He can maybe do some number 3 stuff. He's not a number 2.
His contract would tell you otherwise, but
it's an overpay, but he's going to benefit from this.
Yes.
And Maxey can play off ball and on ball. Maxey, his growth has been amazing this year.
I like the 76ers coming out of this. I really do. I feel like the locker room is better. I think I don't know what the Nets are going to look like when Ben Simmons and Kyrie in and out. I mean, KD will come back and that'll make things a lot better. But for the short term, right, immediate future, I like the 76ers.
Okay, quick question. By the time the playoff starts, Heat, Bucks, Sixers, Nets, I think I'd go Bucks, Sixers, Heat, Nets.
None of them.
None of them are your power rankings in the East.
Give me the Cavs. I don't care.
I'm still going with Bucks number 1.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, I think both teams are probably better, and I'm still going with the Bucks.
Okay.
Are you talking about like finishing, like where they'll finish in the Eastern Conference?
I'm saying
I'm most scared to play in a series.
Oh, I'd be most
who's
scared
coming out of the
Bucks.
East.
The Bucks
Okay.
for sure, especially if all three the big three are healthy. I
Mhm.
don't want to. I don't want to face the Bucks.
Okay.
The Bucks, I don't think are scared of this at all. You
I'm
know,
interested.
like
Yeah,
They largely should pass. I mean, we'll get to what they
winning
did.
that championship gave them a lot of confidence, and I don't care that you could say, "Oh, KD was a little piggly wiggly away from sending him home."
yeah, and like I hate that argument because like, okay, what if Ray Allen's foot was on the line?
Right.
Then
Mhm.
like, then oh my gosh, like LeBron wouldn't have a second championship. Like I hate this argument. Like his foot was on the line. Maybe if his foot was behind the line, he doesn't make the shot.
That's
You know
also
what I'm
true.
saying?
Right.
Like, this, and he missed like all the next shots he took for the
Yeah.
entirety of overtime. Like that was the last gasp.
Nobody
he
talks
had.
about that.
Like, yeah, like I just don't like that argument. Like, what if his foot wasn't on the line? It was. His foot was on the line.
But it was though.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
but
was. Yeah. So I guess we should move
Yeah,
on
we
to
can-
the what I consider the surprise deal of
Okay.
the trade deadline.
Mhm.
Which was Kristaps Porzingis being traded to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. The Wizards also got the Mavs' second round pick in the deal, which I mean I don't think that's very significant, but I guess it's more than nothing.
Yeah.
Eric, you enjoy Denny Avdia
I
and
love.
therefore have seen a lot of Wizards games. What do you think about this move and also the Montrezl Harrell move?
Thank you for bringing up Denny Avdia. So at first glance, I don't love it. But when I think about how this will impact the players that still remain on the Wizards, I'm a fan. I think Denny Avdia. So going into the season, I said the coaching change is nice because Denny Avdia, I don't know, they just made it an effort not to give him the ball. And we've heard from people such as Davis Bertans about fighting for minutes. He didn't name names, but I think when you get rid of guys like Dinwiddie, who I think if he was on, for instance, the Lakers, you'd want him to play a lot of minutes. When you get rid of guys who, I'm not saying Dinwiddie's the guy complaining about getting minutes, but when you make the locker room smaller, if you will, get the big guys out. I know Kristaps Porzingis is a big name, but my point is, I think Denny Avdia he is good. He is good with the ball in his hands, and he's a good defender. And I think watching the game, was it last night or the night before? They played the Kings. I think they played the King. Yeah, I was watching him with the ball in his hands, and he was able to do some good things. And I think it'll only get better. I don't know. Kristaps Porzingis is like, they're average. He's just like an average player right now. If you look at his stats, I don't know if he's going to command. I know there were rumors last year that in Dallas, he was like not happy with his role. And maybe that had to do with Rick Carlisle being, Rick Carlisle and all that stuff. But listen, the Wizards are a freaking mess. I'm happy Montrez could get. I thought Montrez going to Charlotte, which I guess we could talk about. I was happy for Montrez, but this season's a wash at this point for the Wizards. I just hope Denny Avdia can get the ball more, and I feel like he has good chemistry with Kyle Kuzma. They feed off each other. So,
You have any thoughts on this for the Wizards or the Mavs?
I don't why. So Kristaps Porzingis, he has a big contract, right? But he's nearing the end of it.
I think it's this year, next year.
I don't know if he's nearing the end of it. I think the concern was his injuries.
I don't know.
And it's definitely injury. He's only played 34 games this season. And then him and Luka don't get along, apparently.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What I had always heard was it's not that they like outwardly hated each other. It's just that, they weren't friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it was worse than reported. Who knows?
I'm just confused. I don't know why this trade made sense. Like, it doesn't make sense when you look at it on paper. I think there's probably something deeper. Like, for instance, Dinwiddie wanted out, which I don't know why they'd care. He's on like a 1-year deal, right?
He just signed like a 3-year deal.
If anything, Bertans.
Yeah. I think he signed a 3-year deal. Bertans is on a long deal.
Yeah. If anything, the Wizards probably were like, all right, we got to move this guy. Because he was like the third. It was Bradley Beal, Spencer Dinwiddie, and then Bertans, the third highest paid player. If anything, probably the Wizards were just trying to move off of him. So,
my opinion is, confused. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh yeah, I'm just confused. I'm confused at this deal.
My opinion is this makes sense for the Wizards and not for the Mavs. So the reason I think it makes sense for the Wizards is when you look at their multi-year sort of moves and how they've been able to transform their roster. First of all, they got off of John Wall, who
Westbrook,
not the player that he used to be. They got a pick for swapping him with Westbrook. They got another pick and got Kuzma, Harrell, and KCP during this last summer. And then they turned Harrell into like Vernon Carey, who like doesn't really move me, and Ish Smith in a second. Okay, so they didn't really get it. They broke up the Harrell contract, I guess. Not really a huge deal. But then they assigned these two guys in the offseason, Dinwiddie, and they've had Bertans, I think, for 2 seasons now. And he's on like a long extension. And these just didn't work. These contracts these guys just didn't really seem to fit. Seemed like Bertans was complaining about like, you know, people always wanting a bigger role. Dinwiddie was saying like he wasn't really welcome as a leader. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, they got Porzingis, who has health issues, but he's like a just below the all-star level. You know what I mean? When he's healthy. So you're like, okay, you know, theoretically next year, you have gone from having these like big bad contract point guards in Wall and Westbrook. I think we can all agree those are bad contract, low efficiency point guards. Definitely. And now you theoretically, I think Beal is out for the season. You have a Beal Porzingis pairing, which is probably the best pairing that you've had when both of them are playing. You're able to get Kuzma. You're able to get a useful role player in KCP. You still have Rui Hachimura. You still have Denny Avdia. You have Corey Kispert, who I think like he still has good potential as a shooter. Daniel Gafford, who they shamelessly did not play at the end of the year to try to show off their trade asset bigs, but I think is possibly their best big. Maybe they need like a distributing point guard, but
yes,
I think that over the last couple of years, the way that the Wizards have retooled with like the limited ability that the Wizards have as a team was good.
Yeah,
I would give them like a B+ for it, or like a A- even, because of how they did with like the Wall and Westbrook swaps. I don't know. Let me know if you have like a heavy disagreement with that. I would like to see your point.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see if this trade was meant for like a short term, like when you get rid of I guess you could think of it long term, getting rid of the Bertans contract, or if they were thinking, here's a player that we could pair with Beal. Maybe Beal signed off on this. I don't know if Beal has that like LeBron Pelinka.
I think he kind of, maybe he didn't sign off on this exactly, but was like, if you make like a trade, like I'll sign that extension with you in the summer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So I don't know if I'm not sure if that's the case. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Beal, with the player like the extension in the offseason. But I think Marco, I was about to say what Marco just said about they really need a point. They really need a point guard to distribute. They don't have that right now.
They could play Denny at point. He's a distributor, I think, right?
Denny with the ball he's very mature with his like just how he plays the game. I mean, playing in the Israeli league since he was like 16, and if you watch him play, he makes the easy play. He doesn't try to take terribly difficult shots. Finds the open guy. I wouldn't be mad at that if he was a point guard.
I know he's like a budding defender too.
He's got great size.
I think towards the end of this season where they don't have Beal, they should just kind of try stuff out, like point guard.
Yes.
And
they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Like the East is pretty strong. Like they either make the 10th spot or they don't. Like what does it matter? You know what I mean?
Right.
Just try stuff out. Get ready for next year. Beal is out for the season. Try to find the best spots for Porzingis. I think Wes Unseld is a good coach. This does not make sense for the Mavericks. In my opinion, they lowered their ceiling. They didn't get, because their ceiling, can we agree? Their ceiling was higher with Luka and a healthy Porzingis.
Sure. Yes.
I will say the biggest weakness for the Mavs has been their 3-point shooting. You could argue that if this is very conditional on if Bertans gets his shooting back, if Bertans and Dinwiddie are able to be efficient 3-point shooters, I think that, I don't know if it puts them above having a healthy Porzingis, but I think it adds an element to the team that was has been lacking the past couple of months.
Okay, so healthy Porzingis is something we haven't seen aside from in the playoffs, aside from a couple games against the Clippers in the bubble, right? And once he got that second knee injury, there was kind of he wasn't the same since then, and right. He was a little better this year, but still not the same. So what I see is the ceiling of healthy Porzingis is a matchup nightmare where he can shoot from 28 feet. And he is also 7'3", and right. I'm not saying that he's going to post up and dominate there, but he had some success on catching lobs or rolling for dunks and stuff like that at times. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it didn't happen enough. You know what I mean? Healthy Porzingis didn't happen enough, and I can understand why they make the trade, I guess. But Dinwiddie has not been good this year. He's coming off a knee injury too. Maybe that'll improve. Bertans has not been good this year. Somebody who's supposed to be a shooter, shooting 32%. He does take difficult shots, but he got benched. He wasn't doing the one thing he's supposed to provide, So I am, and you would think maybe what if they got off contracts and they got more movable deals or they were more able to work in free agency or something like that. And I just don't think they did that either. Bertans' deal is really long and he's seen as probably one of the worst contracts in the league right now. Dinwiddie's contract is, I think, a couple more years as we discussed, and he's not playing very well off the knee injury. And it sounds like he might have not been a very well-liked character in the Wizards locker room that might have had a lot of problems.
I think this trade is going to come down to who is able to break out of the slump that they're having. I think if you look at it right, I think to Marco's point, if you look at just the numbers right now, I think Marco's right that the Mavs probably quote unquote lost. But I think if let's say Kristaps stays where he is, and then Dinwiddie and Bertans they have a defined role and they're doing well in that role, so Bertans shooting the 3 well, then I think the conversation changes. But I would say I would give Porzingis a better chance of getting out of his slump that he's had this year, if you want to call it that, than Bertans and Dinwiddie, because Dinwiddie, that injury, I don't that's a tough injury for anyone to come back after the first year. And then Bertans is just wouldn't that be something if he just magically was just drilling threes, right? So
again, yeah, you could theoretically get back to what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I think you never know with the change of scenery, right? I mean, we just talked about how, well, I think Will mentioned that Harden, he has like that 3-month window of just being excited about being in a new place. So
a little honeymoon period.
Yes.
Honeymoon period.
Yes. So time will tell. But it's just been, just to reiterate, I'm a jinx. Anyone watching, just pray that I don't start rooting for your team. So
I think Harrell and the Hornets should be like kind of fun. He seemed like he's had a good first couple
that's
games.
a good segue. So talking about the other trade, trade.
I don't think it requires like too much attention, but the Hornets, they needed like a backup big. He can play next to PJ Washington. People thought they'd move PJ Washington. He can play with him or without him. Like they didn't really give up anything. That was a nice ad.
That was a really nice ad. It's not Sabonis or Miles Turner, but I think I'm happy that the Hornets recognized that they could use some depth, and I think if anyone's going to benefit from, I mean, we talked about it, how the Wizards were a significantly better team when Montrez was getting easy buckets, and I think the same thing will apply with the Hornets. Montrez will get, if there's one thing Montrez will do, he will get you easy buckets if you give him.
He'll try.
Second chance. Yeah, he tries. He tries.
That effort, yeah. And if anyone needs effort on the defensive end, it's the Hornets. I don't know if he's gonna make them into. I mean, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league, so it can't hurt.
Cool.
Do we want to talk about this Kings Pacers trade? Sorry, we have a ton of trades to talk about. So
I think that definitely deserves some time.
Cool.
I think a lot of people were shocked that Tyree. Okay, the trade being, and sorry, I made these notes, so I'm just gonna read them out.
Please.
The Pacers get Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. The Kings get Sabonis, Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2023 second-round pick. I think a lot of people were shocked Tyrese Halliburton was moved. Personally, I was a little disappointed that if they were going to make this move, we didn't get to see a Halliburton Sabonis pairing and a De'Aaron Fox Miles Turner pairing. I thought that could be like really fun for both teams. However, like they've played a couple of games since this deal happened, and honestly, like both teams kind of like people lambasted the Kings for this.
Yeah.
No direction, giving up young talent. I get that because Halliburton seems like he's really good, and I think that he was hampered a bit by the fit with Fox, which maybe even affected my perception of him.
Yeah.
Because in his first game as a Pacer that I watched, he played very well. And Sabonis, I think, is the best player in the trade right now. And he's still only like 25 years old, closer to Fox's age. And he's a 2-time All-Star, perennially near All-Star level at this point. People call him a bad defender. He's not. He's average, which is fine. And he moves the ball. He's a passing big, probably one of the best passing bigs in the league. Not really a shooter, but he gets rebounds, assists, points. He does a lot of stuff. So the first couple games he's played as a King, they've gone 2-0, and it seems like they've been really fun. Maybe there was a bit of an overreaction towards like lambasting the Kings for this, but I still think that they could have rolled with the young talent. I don't. How do you guys feel?
Well, first I was shocked that was where Sabonis went.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not surprised that they had to throw in Halliburton. I think, like it makes sense that that's what the Kings were, or that's what the Pacers were asking. But I think if you really boil it down, it's not like they traded for a scrub, the Kings. I mean, Sabonis is a 2-time All-Star, young, and if any, they needed a big guy. They don't. I mean, Rashawn Holmes. I don't know if he's the long-term answer. He's a nice piece, but
I think everybody is surprised that Rashawn Holmes didn't get traded because the fit will be as weird as it was with Miles Turner, right?
right.
So I don't mean to cut you off.
No worries. I think there's also the element of moving off of Buddy Hield. I wonder if the Pacers looked at that as more of taking on the burden of the contract rather than saying, "Oh, we want Buddy Hield." I'd be very interested to see who. I mean, it sounds like the Pacers engaged the Kings. I don't think the Kings went out of their way. I don't know. Did the Kings go out of their way to say, "Oh, we want Sabonis," or did the Pacers reach out to the Kings and say, "Hey, we are interested in Halliburton"? I don't know. But something that I keep thinking about, not specifically with this trade, but now it's going to be very fun to watch Pacers Cavs the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Which you could not have said last year. No, I don't think anyone would have guessed that we would be excited to watch a Pacers Cavs duel, but now we are. Yeah,
and their first game was quite fun.
Yeah,
Karis LeVert went clutch mode. Tyrese Halliburton had an amazing game. The Pacers scored 47 in the first quarter, and they ended up losing. Cavs made a tremendous comeback.
Yeah, so I think the Pacers really did a good job. I mean, they were not too long ago, they were talking about blowing it up, and they kind of did with some trading Sabonis, but now it's like you got some really interesting pieces on this team. You got Halliburton, you got Chris Duarte, who's playing really well for rookie season. Buddy Hield isn't a scrub.
No.
You still have Miles Turner, who's good defensively. You have Malcolm Brogdon. So I think if you couple that, if they had a high draft pick, this is gonna be a very interesting team. I might even go so far to say that they might be able to make the playoffs next year in the East. Not very high, but I could see them in the play-in tournament. Why not?
For sure.
I would take them over the Knicks going into next season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Will, you have thoughts?
No, I'd agree with that. Just in general, yeah. I think the initial internet reaction and consensus was like, "Oh, the Kings got, rocked on this trade." But I was talking to a guy I know from SAC, and he's like, "Well, we did get the best player in the deal, and I think he sort of was of the opinion that like you just had to shake things up a bit." But he's like, it's not as bad as like people are making it out to be, and I kind of think he's right. And obviously, they'll probably still continue their playoff drought, but maybe next year they'll make some improvements still, and they'll end it. I don't think that I don't know if the Kings are where players go to die now as much as they may have been. So
I think next week we'll definitely have, after a full game of like a full week of like Sabonis on the Kings, CJ on the Pelicans, like the new look Spurs, stuff like that. Like we'll definitely have a talk about who's making that last play-in spot, because it matters for those teams actually.
Right.
Even though like the 10th spot sounds like it's like insignificant, like it matters to them.
Right.
But yeah, like I think that the disappointment is not really on like the value that they got, but rather that the Kings didn't go. I think a lot of fans are disappointed that they didn't go in the young direction rather than this like, not exactly like young vet. They're kind of at like near prime. Fox and Sabonis are. And the Pacers, they seem very exciting and stuff like that. You could have seen the Kings take a direction like that, and they didn't. But I guess we move on. But I agree with Eric. The Pacers could be good as soon as next year. I kind of think that Brogdon will be traded in the summer, and they would stick with their younger backcourt. Turner, they could end up keeping. He has good value though.
They need Chet. Go get
Chet.
Chet.
A lot of these college guys fit really well. Trailblazers send
Yes.
CJ McCollum to the Pelicans. The Pelicans get CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. The Blazers get Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they promptly traded to Utah, Tomas Satoransky, Didi Louzada, 2022 first-round draft pick protected. I think it's protected 1 to 4. So I do think he'll likely go through. 2026 second-round pick, 2027 second-round pick. Just the better one between some teams. So how do we think that the Blazers did for moving CJ?
I mean,
well, first off, I want to say that CJ on the Pelicans is very interesting.
yeah,
And we can get into that later, but I wonder if CJ in the collapsed lung had probably had a negative impact on the trade.
Yeah, trade value.
You kind of got a sum of parts. You didn't get like one player that's like that's the one guy who's going to be able to make up for CJ McCollum not being on the Blazers. I do like Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart has been getting the raw bad cut. He was on the Lakers, and then we all had high hopes for the Pelicans. Well, some people had high hopes for the Pelicans. And when they got the Anthony Davis trade, but I think I honestly think this is probably the best that they could have done for that's probably the best they could have done at the time. So
yeah,
I'm more excited to see CJ on the Pelicans than I am the Blazers are just, it sounds like they're trying to build around Dame.
Yeah,
that's my follow-up. They say that.
About.
Do any of you believe Dame will be? And they talked about this on our low post, which I listened to. But do any of you actually believe Dame will be on the roster to start next year?
Yes,
you do.
I do, because I think his trade value right now is. I think the Blazers are like, oh, we can't really demand a ton for him.
You don't think they can demand much in the summer?
I think if he continues to sit out.
Yeah, I think
because what's his injury right now? He had
an abdominal thing.
Yeah,
he had a surgery on the ab muscle, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it could happen in the summer. I think if he comes back in the season, he picks up where he wasn't having an amazing season to begin with. So even if you were saying it's not like he was, the Dame that we all know and love.
But people were saying that was because of the ab injury, and then he had the surgery to correct it and is now sitting out.
That could be, but again, just even with that being said, it's like that's your latest body of work. It's not commanding of let's say when he was even last year. So I don't think it'll happen in the summer. And I think if it does happen in the summer, we'll see a trade where it's like, oh, I wonder if they could have gotten more. But I think to Marco's point, I don't think Dame is you're building around a guy that, how old is he? 30?
He's 32, something like that.
I know he's been like an Iron Man for most of his career, but it's like
31.
I don't know if they can, and I don't think they are. I think they're trying to if they're trying to blow it up, they're not doing a good job, because these players that you're trading for, I don't know if they're the future. And
they didn't even keep Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Right, and you traded for Joe Ingles for cap purposes, because Joe Ingles is he tore his ACL.
They have tons of cap room this summer, but when have they proven they can do anything with cap room?
I know Chauncey Billups is a nice. People like Chauncey Billups as a coach, and that's something that you can. Oh, I want to play for Chauncey Billups, but again, to Marco's point, it's like they haven't really proved that they have much power in attracting free agents.
The reason I think that Dame would not be on the roster next year is, one, I don't believe they can sign any free agents. You have such a short window of time to prove to Dame here that you're not rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
You're likely going to re-sign Anthony Simons, right? But then what else do you have? Like, you have Nurkic. He can leave if he wants. If he doesn't like this, he can leave. By all reports, he was going to stay, but those reports came before the CJ trade. You have, Josh Hart is nice. We like him. Nasir Little, I like. Simons, like I said, still be there. He seems like he's pretty good, but like, you don't have much time to prove to Dame that this is like a roster you can win with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And these big trades, I just think that they're more likely to happen in the summer, where a team can like address their team needs, come into training camp with like a plan and such, rather than in season. So I just kind of feel like the Blazers would make that decision before the season, if it happens. That's just my argument for like why I don't think Dame will be on their roster next year.
I think he'll be like making noise at the start of the season, like, oh, I want out. And I think they'll be like, oh, we're going to fix it. And then eventually he'll like, I know he doesn't want to be the guy, but he'll probably have to like pull a Harden like 2 years ago to get out of Houston. I'll probably be.
No, I don't even think he'll have to. I kind of think that the Blazers, despite what they say, know that this isn't going to work.
Okay.
Right.
They have a lot of things to figure out. The Neil O'Shea, the GM
is Joe Cronin. O'Shea got fired.
Right, he was fired, so they have this new GM, and
their ticket sales are really bad, so they have to watch what they say. That's the other thing.
They're a mess. They're a complete mess right now.
Mm-hmm. They got a couple of young guys I like. I like Nasir Little. I like
Anthony Simons.
Yeah. But like, this isn't enough to win with the team. Also, like Anthony Simons, you're going to present the same problem you had with CJ, where like your backcourt defense with Dame and Simons would be awful. And you just like have a floor, or sorry, like a cap to your potential based on that. Like, what's the best they could do is like a low playoff seed again. And that's the best they could do. So I personally I think that this summer it's time for them to take a new direction. Also, new GM often means like a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm.
They might hire a new guy too. I don't know if they'll keep Cronin because he's like an interim guy. You don't want the interim guy to make like a huge deal.
Right.
They got to draft Chet.
I don't think that they'll get that high a pick. So
never say never.
We have a few other deals.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go a little more rapid fire, I think.
Okay.
Rapid.
Yeah. Just tell me like what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Just spit something out. I got
Let's
you.
go.
Okay. Cavs acquire LeVert from the Pacers. Cavs get Karis LeVert, a 2022 Miami second-round pick. Pacers get Ricky Rubio's expiring contract, 2022 first-round draft pick, lottery protected, so a pick from the Cavs that will likely convey this year. And 2 second-round picks, one via Houston and one via Utah. That Houston pick should be pretty good second-rounder. You guys like this deal?
I like it for both teams. I think Pacers get draft capital, and the Cavs get a nice piece in LeVert that Darius Garland could benefit from having. I think it works out for both teams really well.
Yep. Cavs are interesting again. They've been interesting this year, but they're continuing that good trajectory. So happy for them.
All they need is LeBron next year.
Yeah.
If Bronny gets drafted there, man.
Oh yeah, Bronny is a couple of years away, right?
Yeah.
He's like a junior or something right now.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree with both of you. Pacers did well. They got a first and a high second and an expiring contract for Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert, really good. Cavs team need is like a ball handling on the bench with or ball handling take pressure off of Garland because Rubio went out. we've hit everything. I think it's going to continue to be really fun. It's been fun for the first couple games already. Next one, Derek White. Celtics get Derek White. Spurs get Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, 2022 first round pick, and a 2028 first round pick swap. How do you guys feel about this one?
I like this for the Spurs getting that first round pick this year, is because I don't think the Celtics have been playing good as of late, but I still think the Spurs are going to get a nice pick. And I think Derek White's a nice piece, but I like this for the Spurs in a rebuilding effort, getting that first round pick. So good on them.
Interesting. I kind of like it for the Celtics more, honestly, but I don't hate it for either team. I think, we needed to see something different in terms of like ball distribution with the Celtics. Hopefully this works out.
We've talked about the Celtics needing a distributor.
Yeah, it's not like, there's only a few guys who have super high, career or season stats in terms of assists, but like he's 23rd in assists at 5.5. That can help. It can help the culture, I guess. A lot of times, it's just ISO with one of the J's. But so hopefully, I like it. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I like it for both teams. The Spurs, who never make in-season trades, made a good deal, I think.
That's true.
They gave up Derek White is a valuable player. He can shoot, he can defend, he can pass. He does good stuff. The Celtics really needed a player like that, and he seems to already be fitting pretty well. In the first game that I watched against Denver, he played very well. And I think he'll continue to play well. I think people underrated Derek White a little bit. The first round pick, obviously, that's a needed get for the Spurs, who are kind of entering like a younger phase. But the pick swap that they got is also pretty nice, because who knows who will be better than who in 2028. They have the right to swap picks then when the Celtics may be bad. Who knows? So that's nice for them to get. I think both teams did well. This 4-team deal of a Bucks get Ibaka in a 4-team trade. Bucks get Serge Ibaka, 2 second-round picks, Sacramento's and Detroit, so pretty good second-round picks. Cash considerations. Clippers get Rodney Hood, Semi Ojeleye, and Vanya Marinkovic, who I'd never heard of before. Kings get Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles, David Michino, and a second-round pick from Detroit. And the Pistons get Marvin Bagley III. Any thoughts on this?
I like the Bucks getting some cash from the Clippers. No, I'm just kidding. I like
consideration.
I like the Kings getting Dante DiVincenzo, still a very young player. I don't know if they'll be able to sign him to a long-term deal, because he's probably coming out of his rookie contract soon. I don't know if he's going to want to be there, but nevertheless, I think
he's a restricted free agent. So
okay.
I think I like the young talent. I think I would rather have him develop him than Marvin Bagley, who is proven he's not happy in Sacramento, which leads me into saying I like the Pistons are like, why not? So, you have the former number 2 pick. Maybe he could find a groove in Detroit, but I think Serge Ibaka. Dude, how old is he? 35.
He's in his 30s. He's
32. My bad.
Getting old.
Sorry for adding some age to you, Serge. But I think it never hurts to have a nice veteran like that, especially defensively. That's gonna be nice to have a big body, especially with the Nets getting Simmons. I think the thing that I think it'll be a nice piece come playoff time coming off the bench. I like that he's moving off the Clippers, who they'll probably be in the play-in tournament. They'll be in the play-in tournament, right? I think so.
Yeah, it should be.
But I like Serge being on a Bucks team that I think we all think is going to go to the finals, if not win it. So, but cash is king. So
You love it. Wasn't it the
now
Magic
if they
that
could
had a good tweet about that?
if they could get Bitcoin considerations, that would be a whole different story.
Will, how do you feel? Any reaction?
I mean, yeah, to me the biggest thing is the Surge piece. Touched on DiVincenzo is nice. Yeah, I mean, those are the big things that stand out. I think you guys got it. So.
Okay. I would like to point out just like a little sneaky thing here. First of all, I'm not sure that like we think that Surge moves like the needle, the championship needle, but
No.
like it's nice for them to have. It addresses a team need. DiVincenzo wasn't playing that well coming off the ankle injuries, but he has in the past. So nothing really wrong with that. But I think that the nice thing is that the Bucks, which keep in mind, like basically don't have any first round picks because they traded them all to New Orleans for Drew Holiday, right? Got 2 seconds. Last year they ended up using the 2 seconds to get Grayson Allen last summer, right? So this is definitely like a way that they can improve their team in the summer next year. And they also got rid of Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye, who were kind of stinking it up, not gonna lie. And therefore they have 2 open roster spots they can use on buyout guys. So they got the opportunity to improve in the summer, and they also got the opportunity to improve in the buyout market, where I think that they're likely to get probably, I don't know, DeAndre Bembry is a guy that I like for them in the buyout market. Eric.
Yes, sir.
We got Torrey Craig going back to the Suns. Aaron Holiday also landed with the Suns. The Pacers get Jalen Smith and a 2022 second round pick in exchange for Torrey Craig. Any reaction? Does this move the championship?
I thought the Suns were in a similar. People on the major sports networks were saying the Grizzlies should not make any moves, and I thought the Suns were kind of in the same boat. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Torrey Craig, he was on the Suns last year, right?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. So why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can't. I think it's the same thing with the Surge, where like I don't know if it moves the needle, but
it's nice. It's just nice.
It's nice. So, but I think if they didn't do it, if the Suns didn't do it, still would think that they're killing it. I like, good for the Pacers for stacking up some draft picks, get another second round pick.
Take a flyer on Jalen Smith, who has been having a pretty good season. And the Jalen Smith, he was a 10th pick in 2020 and got his team option declined, right? So like the Suns lost the ability to retain him, and then he started to have a good year after he looked like pretty unplayable the first couple of years or the first year. So I think the Pacers, like, they did well to get a flyer on a guy who was a lottery pick, like not even that long ago.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to, I think for the Pacers to make the most out of the moves that they're making, especially acquiring the draft picks, going to come down to how they draft. I was thinking about the Bucks acquiring the second round pick when they got Surge, and that's a team. That's a team that has proven that they can draft well in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, they got Malcolm Brogdon in the second round.
Right.
So they did, yeah.
I think if the Pacers are, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, you have all these picks. Surely one of them will turn out to be a very solid piece. So I'm excited to see the Pacers, man. If the Pacers were a stock, I'd buy a few shares.
I would be buying Pacers stock.
I'd be buying Cavs stock. I'd be buying Pacers stock. I'd be shorting the hell out of the Lakers, William.
That's fair. we're in a bad spot.
And I don't think there's any chance for a short squeeze. So
I think like if you short the Lakers now, you've kind of lost all the value. Like
Yeah, you
they're
should have
as
done
low
it.
as
You
it
should have done it
gets.
as soon as the Westbrook trade.
I'm still shorting it, man.
I mean, like the team win total was like 51.5.
But under cash this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hit already. Like you could have shorted them in this. You literally could have shorted them in the summer and made money.
Yeah.
At this point, like they're already shorted out. I feel like this is as low as it gets. That loss to the Blazers.
They could miss the playoffs. We'll see.
Is it as low as it gets? Playoffs.
That loss to the Blazers.
They could miss the play-in, is what I mean.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
The loss to the Blazers, I think, was the lowest it gets. To be honest.
Yeah, wasn't LeBron like I just want to get in bed and drink wine?
Yeah. Couple quick ones for you here.
Yep.
Raptors trade Dragic to the Spurs. They get Thad Young. They also got Drew Eubanks, who they waived, and a second round pick. I think this is Detroit's second round pick or Houston's. So one of the best second round picks in exchange for Goran Dragic and Toronto's own 2022 first round pick. So they probably moved a little bit down in the draft and traded a player who was not playing in exchange for a player who is. I'll just go ahead and tell you, I'm a big Thad Young guy.
Okay.
He's like constantly solid. Didn't really have a role for the Spurs this year, but like I think he'll fit in with the Raptors really well. Raptors were just on an 8-game win streak until they lost to Denver in a close one. Like Thad Young, they needed help off the bench. Thad Young will help. Should it have costed a first round pick? Well, really, they're just moving down in the draft, but I don't know. He'll be fun on the Raptors. He's a good player.
Yeah.
Take Goran Dragic to the Lakers.
That has been reported. That has been reported as a possibility.
William, thoughts on this?
Yeah, okay. Well, in the sense that if he does go to Lakers, that might be cool. But
that might be cool.
It's not going to turn the Lakers season around. Let's put it that way.
No. I like it for the Spurs. You know, another in-season trade, like you mentioned.
Another draft pick.
Another draft pick. You know, how long do you think Pop is going to stick around for? Like, is he really going to, be able to reap these benefits in like 3 to 5 years?
Everybody says like Pop wouldn't sign up for a rebuild. Like, I think that's possible, but like he would be probably really good at developing players in a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't doubt that he would do well there. It just depends. Like, does he want to do it or not?
Depends what he wants. Yeah.
You know what? I want to throw out a crazy Pop stat that I read on Twitter.
Okay.
If Willie Green, the head coach of the Pelicans, had a 15 straight 82-0 seasons, he would still not have as many wins as Greg Popovich does.
Wow. That's actually insane.
Crazy.
Wow. Well, good for Pop. Yeah, he's like what? He's like a 75% career percentage winner or something.
3-point shooter too.
Yeah.
Pop shoots 75.
We got this last one here. I'm not even sure what's worth talking about. The Jazz acquire Nickeil and Alexander Walker in a 3-team deal. They get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Juancho Hernan-Gomez. The Blazers get Joe Ingles' expiring contract, Elijah Hughes, and a second-round pick. The Spurs get Tomas Satoransky and a second-round pick. I think the main thing to say here is, like, nobody thinks that this, like, moves the needle for the Jazz, right? Like, this isn't the trade that they needed.
Right.
Alexander Walker, like, has potential, but hasn't really, like, done anything with it in the last couple of years. He's been a little too inconsistent, a little bit too much of a gunner. This isn't like the move that's gonna put the Jazz over the top, put them with others. Go ahead.
I like this for Alexander Walker because Utah is a place where I think young talent, like they have a great coaching staff there. I think Quinn Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you compare the Jazz to like the Blazers, who are in similar spots of like, don't have a lot of free agency pull. Usually have to acquire things through trades or drafts. But you look at the stark difference between like the Jazz, who are able to really develop players that they get their hands on, the Blazers who are just like, they don't do that. So I agree. This is not going to have an immediate impact on their championship hopes this year. But I think I'm excited to see what he does in Utah, because I give more confidence in him in Utah than I would in New Orleans, where he was, and then the Blazers, where he initially went. So I'm excited for him. Good luck to you, sir.
I will add he is a free agent this year. I think.
Well, see you then.
So, yeah, I don't think it'll cost that much to keep, but they will have to pay him probably like $5 million a year. It depends, like when they're strapped like that, depends on whether they want to do it, because like Utah's probably pretty close to the cap.
I like $5 million a year.
You like $5 million a year?
I would also
that, Eric.
Yeah,
very much like $5 million. I think that's all the trades that were worth discussing for us.
I'd agree. Anything else, Eric?
Let's
Who's
go
your
Bengals.
Championship favorite?
Let's go
Bengals. Let's go Bengals. Is your championship favorite changed this week?
For NBA?
Yeah. Has it changed?
No.
Yeah.
Still like the Bucks. Still like the Bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna continue to be fun.
Are we gonna see Bucks Suns?
I think we'll see Bucks Suns too.
Could be a year where we see two B teams win championships. The Bengals and the Bucks.
Okay. I was like, who are you calling?
Or the Grizzlies and Bucks.
There we go.
Grizzlies
Or
and
the
the
Grizzlies.
Cavs.
The Grizzlies and the
Cavs final.
I wonder how much that would cost. Like how much a bet like that would cost. Like or not how much, like what the payout would be.
The ticket would be. Yeah.
Should look into that.
Probably like plus 10,000.
Throw $10 on there.
We'll see.
I think that's it for us this week. Thanks everyone, and see you later. Deuces.
Peace.